In the mid-20th century, there was a series of books called the Great Book Series. It was presumed that if you wanted to be a cultured, informed person in the West, that you would have read many, if not all, of these works. They range from Aristotle up to Sigmund Freud. Even at the time it was published, it was the center of controversy because people would say, why are these books so great? And you've left out Africa and Asia. How could you have the Great Book Series do that? Well, the very opening book in the series is sort of an apology by the editors. And it's called The Great Conversation, this first volume. One of the great contributions at that time was seeing the West's ability to have conversations about ideas, ideals, that are oftentimes in conflict with one another. The capacity to have a conversation. We know in our own time that it's practically impossible to do that, even between family members. For example, in politics, no one talks about politics because we realize that it'll set off a tinderbox of angry words and accusations. No one will change their opinions and everybody will be upset. So people would prefer to talk about the weather, but not climate change. And you can see everything becomes hard to have a conversation about. Sports. Well, suddenly you find somebody was a graduate of Ohio State and you were from Michigan. Problems. How to have a conversation without confrontation. It's an art in reality that has unfortunately been lost. I, in my old age, look over the titles of those great book series, and quite a number I read, quite a number I didn't read. But now, as my intellectual sharpness begins to decline, I say to myself, now is the time to pick up some of these classics and savor them and read them. And even the ones that I read as a young man or even as a teenager, I should reread. There's no way I could have understood Macbeth or Shakespeare when I was a sophomore in high school. The passion, the love, the lust, the murders, the betrayals, the exposition of human nature that's behind those great literary works. In my journey, I want to savor some of these classic works. And hopefully that will enrich the last years or decades of my life. But I would encourage everyone to try to read the classics, whether they're from the Great Book Series or not. Everyone going to college today, it seems, wants to take science or technology or law or medicine because you could see a clear path to earning a living in those disciplines. But there's more to life than that. And in some bizarre, strange way, some people that have steeped themselves in the liberal arts end up earning more money than those in the technical field, which is always shifting and changing, etc. To understand how to have a conversation with fellow employees, with bosses, with shareholders, with customers, to have a great conversation with them requires to have a broad spectrum of knowledge that could be found in the great literature of the world. If you want to understand India and all of its tremendous religions and ethnic groups and nationalities, well, you've better first have a pretty good handle on Plato, Plotinus, and Augustine. Only by having an understanding of the mysticism in the West can you begin to understand a culture like India. And taking a quick survey course really does not do the trick. So having a global vision starts with having an understanding of our own culture that can be gleaned from the great literature of the world. My favorite fictional writer, Dostoevsky. I haven't read him in the original Russian, but even in translations, his insights, his depth is so powerful and important for us in the 21st century, just as it was when he first penned those great novels. All of us, if we enrich our own inner journey through reading the great writers of history, whether we agree with them or not, will be in a better position to understand the world around us and not have a distorted view because we are totally ignorant of various critical fields that contribute to the human condition. Our journey is one of the mind, the heart, and the soul. People also can't have conversations about religion. It's so hard to do. Within Catholicism the last 60 years, I think Catholic theologians have mastered the art of talking with non-Christian religions and learning from them as well as teaching them. I've had a long association with Jewish Christian studies. I've learned so much from the rabbis, and I hope they learned a little bit from me. In other religions of the world, I learned a great deal from Thomas Berry, who is a master of the indigenous religions of India and of Asia. But in order to understand those religions, first I had to be steeped in the Catholicism that has shaped and formed my life. A religion with a small c being universal, and a big C meaning Catholic within the sacramental structure. Both those have been so important in my life's journey. A grasp of philosophy and theology and psychology and science are all part of the education I've received, both formally and informally. And I pray that you'll never give up your own quest for learning and understanding. It's such a precious journey that we're on. And may God bless you.